the Chi-Town experience on the flight. Let me go tune in to Keek on the mic. He gon' make sure we get our news and highlights. When you get on YouTube, you better hit the like.
New head coach Ben Johnson could pound the table for Ryan Poles and the Chicago Bears to draft this elite prospect early in the 2025 NFL Draft. Hey, what's going on, Bears fans? Thank you so much for joining me for another episode of Keek on the Mic, the podcast all about the Chicago Bears. As always, if you're new to the channel, make sure you hit that subscribe button and the notification to catch all Bears content right here on the podcast. So, Bears fans, we have a really interesting topic of discussion on today's episode of Keek on the Mic, because when you look at new Bears head coach Ben Johnson, he will definitely have a couple of players in the upcoming NFL Draft that he pushes hard for and tries to convince Ryan Poles and the Chicago Bears to draft. But the good news about this situation between Ben Johnson and Ryan Poles that we already know is that they are well aligned and they are going to have the same vision going into free agency and the NFL Draft on how they really want this process to play out and the players they actually want to add to the Chicago Bears roster. So that's obviously really, really good news. However, Ben Johnson will definitely have a handful of players, not only in free agency, but the 2025 NFL Draft, that he would love to coach here in Chicago and players that will fit his scheme perfectly here with the Chicago Bears offense. And there is plenty of good talent in the 2025 NFL Draft at multiple positions of needs for the Chicago Bears. And Bears fans, we have talked about so many the position groups and so many areas of needs that the Chicago Bears need to address. We have talked about multiple offensive line options. We have talked about D-line prospects and the running back prospects in regard to the 2025 NFL Draft. But there is another position of need now that the Chicago Bears have released tight end Gerald Everett. They have a need at the tight end position. And we haven't really discussed tight end options, not only in free agency, but the NFL Draft as well. The Chicago Bears could definitely opt to maybe pair someone via free agency with tight end Cole Kmet. There's players like Juwan Johnson from New Orleans Saints, Mike Gesicki, the tight end currently of the Cincinnati Bengals. That could be good options to pair with Cole Kmet and to fit, what Ben Johnson is kind of looking for in his tight end room here in Chicago. But if we are looking towards the 2025 NFL Draft, there is one player that can make a lot of sense for the Chicago Bears, talking about the 2025 NFL Draft, and that is Michigan's tight end Colston Loveland. And when you look at a guy like Colston Loveland, he is a very intriguing prospect in this year's 2025 NFL Draft. If I had to rank him, I think he is a little bit behind Penn State's tight end Tyler Warren, but he is a very close second. He stands at 6'5", 245 pounds. Once again, Loveland is an intriguing prospect in this year's NFL Draft. He's long, strong, and athletic, natural separator, tough, coordinated, and explosive, plays with an impressive twitchiness to his game. I love his catch to attack mentality as well. Also a smooth and efficient runner. And Bears fans, I know people will ask me on today's episode of Keek on the Mic, say, Keek, why do we need a tight end early in the draft? And why would Ben Johnson actually pound the table for a guy like Colston Loveland? Because even though we do have a need at tight end now, we still have tight end Cole Kmet. Let's just go address this area of need in free agency with signing maybe Juwan Johnson or a Mike Gesicki to pair with Cole Kmet, and that should do just fine. So to answer this first question for you Bears fans, with the Everett release, Bears now do have a need at tight end to pair with Cole Kmet. And even though the Bears do have Cole Kmet, and Cole Kmet has shown the flashes of his playmaking ability, and for the last couple of years prior to when we had Luke Getsy as offensive coordinator, which was, Cole Kmet's best season with the Chicago Bears, our corners had a tough time of finding consistency and including Cole Kmet within the Chicago Bears offense. And I think Cole Kmet will take a step forward under Ben Johnson. I think that's the expectation from Ben Johnson as well. I'm not sitting here saying that Kmet should be replaced. I am just saying that, getting a guy like Colston Loveland or going to get a guy maybe like Juwan Johnson or Mike Gesicki in free agency would be a good complement to a guy like Cole Kmet. So I do think having Ben Johnson in the fold and his creativity as a play caller, Cole Kmet will take the next step and go back to his original form, what we saw with him under Luke Getsy, where he had 70 catches and was a big time target for Justin Fields at the time. And I think going forward, he's going to be a big time target with Ben Johnson for Caleb Williams and the Chicago Bears offense. But we can't be naive to the fact that Colston Loveland is also a very good tight end prospect in the 2025 NFL draft. And if you do not want to spend a lot of money on a tight end like Jawan Johnson or Mike Gesicki, you can get, a tight end and have him on a rookie contract for cheap and a guy like Colston Loveland, and he would be also a really good pairing for Cole Kmet in this Ben Johnson offense. But here is the real ticker, and this is why answering the second part of the question is, why would Ben Johnson be pounding the table for a tight end in NFL draft or just a tight end like Colston Loveland from Michigan? When you think about Colston Loveland and his game, and you think about the pro comparisons in the National Football League for tight end Colston Loveland out of Michigan, and the pro comparison according to NFL analyst Lance Zierlein right now is Lions tight end Sam LaPorta. Let that sink in for quite a second. Don't forget, Bears fans, that Ben Johnson was in Detroit when the Lions drafted Sam LaPorta out of Iowa. In 2 years, LaPorta had 1,645 receiving yards and 17 touchdowns. He went to the Pro Bowl his rookie year and became a key part of the Detroit Lions electric offense, all under Ben Johnson. So Ben Johnson wanting to find his Sam LaPorta-like tight end here in Chicago makes a whole lot of sense. It's really a no-brainer. So I am not saying draft Colston Loveland in round 1, but if, and this is a big if, Bears fans, if Colston Loveland drops to the second round, he could be in play for the Chicago Bears to draft him in round 2. And I think it would be a great pick for the Chicago Bears and what he could possibly be for Ben Johnson here in Chicago, adding another dynamic weapon here with the Chicago Bears, another option for Caleb Williams to throw to within the Chicago Bears offense as well. And Bears fans, once again, this is all hypothetical. I think Colston Loveland is, to me, a luxury pick for the Chicago Bears. The Chicago Bears have to go in free agency with the mindset that we have to fix the trenches, meaning offensive line and defensive line, right? If you're able, hypothetically, to land Trey Smith, if you're hypothetically able to land Drew Dahlman and maybe even Kevin Zittler as well, and then maybe let's say you add an edge rusher like Josh Sweat all in one free agency, then the Chicago Bears can go in with the approach saying, hey, we're going to take the best player available. And if that's Colston Loveland, you take Colston Loveland. If that is Ashton Jeanty, then that is Ashton Jeanty, right? So now for the Chicago Bears, it all depends on how much which direction do they truly want to go in the NFL draft? If they do go into free agency and land all those players that I just mentioned, do you prioritize running back more or do you prioritize getting another tight end more? In my personal opinion, when you're looking at the 2025 NFL draft, when you look at the tight ends in this draft class, you think of Tyler Warren and Colston Loveland. But when you think about the running backs in this draft class, it goes far deeper than this. You can get a really good running back in round 3 by probably drafting a guy like Quinshon Judkins out of Ohio State, right? So maybe the Chicago Bears like, hey, maybe we, get all the things we need to get in free agency with the interior offensive line and getting maybe like a really, really good edge rusher. Maybe you can go into round 1, trade back, and then maybe draft a guy like Colston Loveland. And there's a lot of people and analysts and, draft analysts saying, hey, Colston Loveland may not make it to round 2. Tyler Warren and Colston Loveland are 2 really good tight ends in this year's draft class. And a lot of people think that both of these guys are going to be picked in round 1 of the 2025 NFL draft. Once again, I am not saying that the Chicago Bears should take a tight end because it's not, to me, that big of a need. It's a need, but I don't think it's at the top of their list. But once again, Ben Johnson, knowing what he had in Sam LaPorta, if he feels that Colston Loveland is that Sam LaPorta type of player, maybe he does say, hey, let's trade back and let's get some extra second round picks and go draft tight end Colston Loveland out of Michigan, and he can be an instant impact player while keeping Cole Kmet. Now you have 2 really good tight ends on your offense, and once again, when you're going back to Colston Loveland, he would be a matchup nightmare because you put him in the slot, and now a slot corner is going to have to cover a guy like Colston Loveland. Once again, he has shown a great ability to be a master separator, the catch and run ability as well. And I'm not saying he's extremely fast, but he's athletic enough to really dissect these different matchups and make the Chicago Bears offense a whole lot better. So it's going to be interesting to see the approach that the Chicago Bears take. Once again, this is all hypothetical. I could definitely see Ben Johnson possibly pounding the table if Colston Loveland is there in round 2. Once again, I think he's going to be a first round pick, but it's all going to be interesting how this whole thing plays out. So now if we add Colston Loveland in a hypothetical 3-round mock draft on today's episode of Geek on the Mic, in round 1, you still take tackle Will Campbell out of LSU. I think that first pick should almost 95% be an offensive lineman, unless you once again, hypothetically do land Trey Smith, Drew Dahlman, and Kevin Zittler. Maybe you do go Ashton Genty in round 1, but for me, I would still take a offensive lineman, and my favorite offensive lineman in this year's draft is Will Campbell. In round 2, pick 39, if he is there, you take tight end Colston Loveland out of Michigan. In round 2, pick 41, you go defensive line, taking Tyleik Williams out of Ohio State. And then in round 3, pick 72, you take your running back in Quinshon Judkins out of Ohio State as well. Once again, this is just hypothetical. I'm not saying this is actually going to happen, but if the Chicago Bears really wanted to prioritize getting a tight end in this year's draft, this could possibly be a scenario that plays out for the Chicago Bears. So overall, Bears fans, before I let you guys go, let me ask you guys this. If Colston Loveland is there in round 2 for the Chicago Bears taking, would you guys be okay with Ryan Poles and the Bears selecting a tight end in the 2025 NFL draft that high, or do you think they should still focus on running back, offensive line, and defensive line in this year's draft? Let me know what you guys would do down below in the comment section. But as always, make sure you guys continue to hit that subscribe button and the notification to catch all Bears content right here on the podcast. Make sure you guys follow me on all my social media platforms, and make sure you share this episode of Geek on the Mic with every single Bears night you know. But other than that, back for all new Bears podcasts right here on Geek on the Mic. Thanks, guys, and as always, bear down.
You ain't bout it, you ain't bout it, you ain't Geek on the Mic. You ain't bout it, you ain't bout it, you ain't Geek on the Mic. You can go and subscribe, cause I be on it right.